We begin this hour with those crucial talks between Israel and Lebanon set to take place in Washington later today. The existing 10-day truce is set to expire this weekend. And ahead of today's negotiations, officials from both countries are laying out their demands, sending out strong messages to each other.
On y va avec un objectif clair. Ce qu'on cherche à obtenir par les négociations, c'est un retrait total des forces israéliennes du Liban.
I call on the government of Lebanon. Let's work together against the terror state that Hezbollah built in your territory.
Now, the U.S. State Department is hosting today's talks. Lebanese and Israeli ambassadors to the U.S. are leading their delegations, trying to find a way to extend what is a fragile, temporary truce. And today's meeting is being clouded, though, by fresh violence in Lebanon. The CBC's Tom Perry is in Jerusalem following those developments for us. So, Tom, as talks between the U.S. and Iran remain at a standstill, Israel and Lebanon are meeting today. What's the latest we're hearing on those talks in Washington?
Well, I guess it's a good sign that these two parties are actually sitting down and having a discussion. That said, they are still very far apart on some key issues. Lebanon is looking for a cessation of Israeli aggression. That's what they're calling it. It's also looking for Israel to pull back to the Israeli border. In other words, pull its troops out of Lebanon. Israel, of course, has that strip, that a buffer zone, really, that it's established along the Lebanese border. It hasn't said when or if it's going to be pulling out of there, pulling back to the Israeli border. And so that's going to be a sticking point between these two parties. Now, you mentioned how there's still, despite this ceasefire, fighting going on between Hezbollah and the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. We've also seen today Lebanon's prime minister is accusing Israel of a war crime, of deliberately targeting a Lebanese journalist. That's Amal Khalil. She worked for the Al Akbar newspaper. She and a freelance photographer, along with two other people, were working in southern Lebanon yesterday when they came under fire from the IDF. The story goes that a car beside Khalil and her colleague was blown up. They tried to seek shelter inside a building. That building was targeted, and Lebanese officials say that the Israelis actually tried to block an ambulance that was trying to give them aid. So Khalil was killed, two other people were killed, the freelance photographer was injured. What the IDF is saying is that it fired on vehicles that crossed its forward defense line, so that buffer zone that it's established, that these vehicles pose a threat to troops, and that the IDF says it doesn't target journalists, and it didn't try to stop rescue vehicles from getting there. But on that point about it not targeting journalists, the Committee to Protect Journalists says there were 129 journalists killed last year around the world, and 86 of them were killed by Israeli forces.
And Tom, as of course we continue to track that situation, we're also hearing about deadly Israeli strikes in Gaza. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we did see another strike overnight in Bet Lahia, that's in northern Gaza. 5 Palestinians were killed, including 3 children. The youngest of those kids was just 9 years old. So the IDF, that's the Israel Defense Forces, says that it targeted a terrorist near the Yellow Line. That, of course, is the line that it's established in Gaza. The IDF is now in control of more than half of the Gaza Strip. And it's, that's just another sign that while there's still there is a ceasefire in effect in Gaza, we're still seeing strikes like this. In fact, the Gaza Health Ministry says that 786 people have been killed since the ceasefire in October, another 2,200 injured, and the IDF says 4 of its troops have been killed in that same period.
Tom, thank you for the latest on this. That is the CBC's Tom Perry in Jerusalem.